What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to review the SVS PB1000 Pro subwoofer. Now, this is a subwoofer you guys have been asking me about forever, and for some reason I just never got my hands on it to review it. And I just got curious enough. I reached out to SVS and I was like, hey, can I get a review sample of the PB1000 Pro? And they were like, no problem, we'll send one over. So here we go. We have finally got one. Now, I've reviewed a ton of SVS subwoofers, the SB3000, the SB2000 Pro, the SB1000 Pro, the Micro 3000, and I've got a ton of videos. I'll leave links in the description below. So far, the SVS SB1000 Pro was my favorite SVS subwoofer. It was really small, not as small as the Micro, of course, but still very small for a sealed 12 subwoofer, very compact. And it kind of just did everything really well. It integrated well, it played fairly loud, it extended fairly low, obviously not as low, and it didn't play as loud as the larger models. But it was one of those situations where I was like, this should be perfect for like 80% of people. And then the remaining 20% of people are going to need those bigger subs with those bigger rooms and so on. Then I got this. And I gotta say, I think this might be my favorite SVS subwoofer now. And I'll tell you why throughout this video. So we're gonna do this review the same way we generally do. I'll throw the main specs on screen so you guys can check that out. I'll tell you about specs and standout features that I care about. I'll tell you what the subwoofer sounds like, where it excels, if there's any shortcomings, how it compares to a few other subs, and then we'll wrap up the video. So, standout features first and foremost, this is a vented subwoofer. Vented subwoofers, generally speaking, are twice as large as their sealed counterparts. A sealed 12-inch sub generally will do just fine with a cubic foot or even 0.8 cubic feet of airspace behind it, whereas a vented 12 generally at minimum is going to be anywhere from 1.5 to as much as 3.5 cubic feet of airspace. Obviously, this one is nowhere near 3.5, but it is not as small as an SB1000 Pro or even a SB3000 Pro for that matter, which is a compact sub also. Anyhow, so it's a vented model. It's going to have SVS's app where you can just literally control anything and everything you'll ever want to adjust in a subwoofer, whether it would be your gain, your slope, your frequency crossover, 3 different PEQ settings, preset profiles, a lot of options. You can control them all from the smart app. Really simple, really easy to use. That pretty much rounds up the standout features. Oh, there is one more thing. The 1000 series by SVS does have high-level inputs. I don't use high-level inputs, but I know some of you guys have like legacy amplifiers or older gear that maybe doesn't have subwoofer outputs, and for one reason or another, you have to use high-level. The SVS 1000 series, whether it be the SB1000 Pro or PB1000 Pro, they do have the high-level inputs. Matter of fact, I'm going to double check. Let's make sure, huh? Yep, definitely has it. I was going to say, you know why I checked? Because I was like, look, if I don't check and I'm wrong, I'm going to have to reshoot this whole video. So I'd rather just get up and check and look unprofessional than look like an idiot and be wrong. So those are the standout features in my opinion. What does it sound like? Why do I like it? Why is it my favorite SVS sub compared to the 1000 Pro? So I originally was using the SVS PC2000. I used that for a long time for my music system, if you could believe that or not. Most people don't use vented subwoofers for music-only systems. Vented subwoofers generally shine in a theater environment. That's what they're known for. Vented subwoofers generally aren't going to have the transient response that a sealed subwoofer has. Sealed subs are generally going to play tighter, be a little bit more accurate, have quicker transient response, have slightly more clear note-to-note distinction, bass fidelity, and things like that. Vented subwoofers, they give up some of that. What do they give you in exchange? Much more output and a much thicker and fuller bottom end, especially if the port tuning frequency is done right. And on the PB1000 Pro, it is absolutely done right. Listen to me, come here. If you listen to EDM, hip hop, stuff like that, you play video games with a lot of deep bass, you watch movies with a lot of deep bass, you're gonna like this subwoofer a lot. It has a tremendous amount of force in those lower registers. Think 25 hertz, 30 hertz. 35 hertz. That's where that really, really low rumbly bass is. Most sealed subwoofers, especially ones under $1,000, they can reproduce some of that stuff, but you're generally going to need 2 or more to even come close with the thickness that a vented model is going to be able to offer in that 25 to 30, 35 hertz range. They just do really, really well there. Now, like I said, you are going to give up a little bit of note-to-note distinction. Yes, it's not going to have the quickest transient response. Yes, vented subwoofers don't have the most aggressive start-stop behavior. So if those are the things you're into, if you're like, hey, like extension sounds cool and everything, but that's not the end-all be-all, I want all those other things. Okay, get a sealed model. The SVS makes a lot of those. SB1000, 2000, 3000, 4000, 16 Ultra, and Micro are all sealed. You got 6 sealed options. But for those of you that are like, I don't care about transient response all that much, I want my shit to bang as hard as possible and extend as low as humanly possible, you want a vented model then. And here's the funny thing. So like, generally speaking, I'm known to use like very high SQ subwoofers. You know, I use subs like the Rhythmic F12SC, REL T9X, T7X. And those, you know, like the REL T7X pair, for example, that gives up a lot of extension for fidelity. So a lot of people might think like that's what I'm super into. And I definitely am on one hand. There's a whole other side of me that's like, you know what? I don't really care that much about transient response. I don't necessarily care about accuracy. I want that low end, thick, juicy fullness that only a vented sub can offer. And if you go back and watch some of my other videos on vented subwoofers, you'll see there hasn't been one I didn't like. I generally like a vented subwoofer. The Emotiva RS11, enjoyed the hell out of that. The RSL Speedwoofer 10S, enjoyed the hell out of that. The Rhythmic FVX12, enjoyed the hell out of that. Vented subwoofers absolutely have their place. Again, they're not going to be for everyone in a music or 2-channel system only, but there are a lot of people, you know, especially if you listen to EDM or hip hop, you're going to appreciate that low end fullness. You listen to something like Unstoppable by Troy Boy, If You by Scruggs, you know, songs like that, they get so low, most sealed subs cannot reproduce all the frequencies. This bad boy can, and it was a lot of fun. So that's what it sounds like. Did I even tell you what it sounds like, or did I just tell you what I liked about it? I think I told you. So how does it compare to other subwoofers? So let's start with the SB1000 Pro real quick. That's its little brother, if you will, part of the same series. All the same features. SB1000 Pro is much, much, much smaller. It's going to have way less output. It's not going to be as authoritative in the lower frequencies either. However, it is much smaller. So the SB1000 Pro is still fantastic. It's going to play a little bit tighter, a little bit more accurate and things like that. If you're shooting for accuracy, for sure, get the sealed SB. You know what I'm saying? But if you want the juicy fullness in those lower frequencies, something only a bigger sub can generally do. Also, sense of scale is much fuller and larger on the PB. Let's just skip the SB2000. It's really good, but it's like I'm just gonna end up saying the same thing. Let's go straight to the 3000, and you can apply the same for the 2000, honestly. So the SB3000 is a little bit more expensive, and it can play a little louder. But again, in the lower frequencies, the PB1000 Pro, look, technically, like if you measure it, I'm pretty sure the SB3000 will have a lot of output in the lower frequencies, but there's a level of effortlessness that this bad boy has that the smaller sealed subs just cannot bring to the table. So that was the craziest thing. I could have sworn I just heard my phone ring, but I know it didn't because I'm using it to film this video and it's on airplane mode. Anyhow, I digress. The SB3000 is fantastic. It can play louder than this. It is more expensive. If you want a vented model that could outperform the SB3000, you're going to go for the PB2000 Pro. I've heard that also. That's a fantastic sub. So look, compared to other SVS subwoofers, this is going to be really easy because this is my advice. If you're not sure if you should get this or a different SVS subwoofer, just email SVS. That's their job, to help you decide which one of their products is best for you. Don't ask me that shit. Email them. They're the ones making money off it. Tell them, I want a PB1000 Pro, but I'm also thinking about this other one you guys make. Email them. What I'm here for is to help you, those of you that are like, well, I don't know if I want this or a different company's subwoofer because I've heard all of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. So let's do some comparisons real quick. So this, I should have looked up the price. I think, I'll leave a correction if I'm wrong. I think it's $799. So let's compare this to the Emotiva RS11. That recently had a price adjustment. They're in the same neighborhood in terms of price point. So the Emotiva RS11 is a vented 11-inch sub. The PB1000 Pro is a vented 12-inch sub. The Emotiva takes a little bit of an edge in terms of power. It's got a 500 watt RMS plate amp. The SVS, I believe, is 325 watts RMS. I'll leave a correction if I'm wrong. The Emotiva has no cell phone app. The SVS does have a cell phone app. The cabinet on the Emotiva is a little bit smaller, so it's more of a compact model than the PB1000 Pro. They both have really good, strong output, especially in the lower frequencies. So as far as extension and output goes, they're both very, very capable. The primary difference here, in my opinion, it's going to be aesthetics and features between the two because price is similar, performance both very good. The Emotiva, I will say, plays a little bit tighter, is a little bit more accurate, but the SVS is going to give you the cell phone app, and it's going to win in terms of features. The Emotiva RS11 is going to take the edge for, having a little bit more control at the limit, having more power, having just a little bit more accuracy in its sound. And while it doesn't have a cell phone app, it comes in a standard painted finish. You can get matte black paint or high gloss black paint, whereas the PB1000 only comes in a vinyl finish. So the differences between the two are going to be mostly aesthetic, in my opinion. At least I think that's what you should use to choose, either the aesthetic differences or the feature set. So some of you guys, no doubt, even though there's a big price disparity, you're going to ask how it compares to the RSL Speedwoofer 10S. I made a whole video talking about how you shouldn't ask me how a smaller sub compares to a larger sub. I love the RSL Speedwoofer 10S. It's a really good subwoofer at $449. I don't think it can be beat. But it's a small, compact vented 10, and this is a much bigger vented 12. It doesn't matter that the RSL Speedwoofer has 75 watts more. The PB1000 Pro will play a lot louder and be a lot more confident in the lower frequencies from top to bottom. The RSL Speedwoofer 10S is interesting in one area. Even though it's a vented sub, it does play fairly tight, and it is fairly accurate. But the PB1000 Pro, again, that 30 hertz region, for example, it's just going to give you so much more authority and confidence. I mean, look, just to give you an example of this, the Speedwoofer 10S would probably about come up to here on the PB1000 Pro, and its depth would maybe come to about here. It's a lot smaller, guys. So I don't like comparing subs that are a lot smaller to subs that are a lot bigger. Usually the bigger sub almost always wins in terms of extension and output. That's just generally how it is. When it comes to bass, size, it really matters, guys. I mean, think about the difference between a bookshelf speaker and a tower. All that extra money you spend on a tower speaker versus a bookshelf, what it gives you is more bass. And the tower is tremendously larger than the bookshelf. That's all to accommodate the speaker so they can have more bass, So let's see if there's another sub I want to compare this thing to. So like I said, I believe it's about $799. The other subs that I've reviewed that are vented, it's really only been those two and then the Rhythmic FVX12, but that's more expensive. This is $799. The Rhythmic FVX12 is like, I think just under $1,200 now. That wouldn't really make sense. You'd compare that more to like the PB2000 Pro, I'd say. I don't want to sit here and compare this to other sealed subs that are much smaller, but I'll do it one time just to get it out of the way, and you can just kind of apply this to most other sealed subwoofers. Let's use something like the REL 1205 V2. I like that sub a lot. It's a smaller sealed 12. It's got more power at 500 watts RMS. This has 325 watts RMS. It's a larger vented 12. Some of you guys, especially if you're noobs, you might think the REL has 500 watts. This thing has 325. The REL's got to be better. It's got to play louder, right? No, that's not how it works. I've said it many times, guys. Wattage is not the end-all, be-all of a subwoofer's ability to play loud. In fact, I'll go as far as to say wattage is not that useful of a metric and is more just it's kind of useless, honestly. And here's why. System efficiency is going to be a lot more important, right? Think about it like this. You got two cars and they both have 200 horsepower. You'd think they're going to be just as fast as each other, right? Well, what if one of the cars weighed 5,000 pounds and the other car weighed 3,000 pounds? Which car's faster? Obviously the lighter one, right? Because the lighter car with 200 horsepower is a more efficient system than the 5,000 pound car that has 200 horsepower. It's the same with subwoofers. If you guys don't know this, vented subwoofers are far more efficient at producing bass at louder volumes than their sealed counterparts. So the PB1000 Pro, yes, it has about 175 watts less power, and it can play tremendously louder than the REL HT1205 V2. But as far as the sound difference is, so look, the PB, it can play louder, it can extend lower. The REL 1205 V2 being a sealed sub is going to be able to play tighter, a little bit more articulate, better note-to-note distinction. All those character descriptors we use to describe bass fidelity or sound quality. The sealed 12-inch REL 1205 V2 is going to take the edge. Output and extension, the PB1000 Pro is easily going to take the edge. Obviously, it does have a whole lot more features as well with that cell phone app. So that's that. If you have a question about like another sealed 12 or something, like just apply what I just said right now to that other brand sealed 12, guys. So I think that wraps up just about everything I want to say here. I enjoyed my time with this subwoofer. I'm going to be sad to see it go back, but it's a review sample, which means it's not mine to keep. Even though it is a vinyl finish, and I generally don't like vinyl, I think SVS has done a good job to make this vinyl look very convincing. This is one of the better vinyl finishes I've seen. I do wish, small critique, I got to throw this small critique out there. This is for the OCD boys out there. I hope you relate. The vent, it doesn't stick out or anything like that, but it's also not exactly flush with the cabinet. It's got maybe about a 3mm lip on it. Would love to see this vent flare be just flush with the cabinet. I think that really would have kind of kicked up the aesthetic quality look of the sub. Obviously, it doesn't affect performance in any way, and it would increase costs. So I understand why it's not flush, but I wish it was. Okay, that's my only gripe. With that said, this video is at a close, y'all. If you have any questions that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to reach out to SVS first. Honestly, they have better customer service than I'm going to give you. You can ask me questions in the comments below. This channel does have a free Discord. Feel free to hop in there. Link is in the description. And until next time, later.